Welcome to the Senior Podcast, number 21. My name's Mary Cordova with Concierge Care Advisors. We help seniors find housing and in-home care so they can stay in their homes safely. Today, I am here proudly with LisaMari. She is with Compass. She is a real estate agent. She specializes in seniors, and I am so grateful for her being here today. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank
Marie.
you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about a few goals about real estate and seniors downsizing and moving out of their house and all of the complications that come with that. And today I would just like to educate our viewers on some of the pitfalls to avoid, especially when you're dealing with a senior real estate agent like LisaMari, who has so much experience in this industry. I will just go through and ask her some questions. If you follow us, we are at www.conciergeadvisors.com, and our phone number is 855-444-7364, and you're welcome to speak to an advisor live if you have interest to do so. There's no charge to use our services. And again, welcome, LisaMari. I just want to talk about the positive outcomes of using a senior advisor like you and how you can reduce the stress and you are compassionate in your communication. We know seniors don't move as quickly as others. And can you talk a little bit about the compassion and the rate you move with seniors and how that differentiates with other clients that you might work with?
This is such a great question. You know, it's been my experience over 30 years that when you move at that stage in your life, it really is different than any other move.
Emotional.
Totally. Than
Yes.
20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s. There's so much that goes into it. There's an attachment to the house. There's all kinds of memories.
Where you raised your kids.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Those memories. Yes.
Yeah. I've seen that so often. So it's a different mindset. It's also probably, hopefully, the I don't want to say the last move, but nobody likes moving.
Right,
So
right.
when you move at this age, it is a project.
Yes.
It is a process. It is
Right.
not a quick do things, and so it's much less stressful if someone is there who's not in a hurry, actually, who understands the process, who understands what the holdups are, both mentally and just in every capacity, in legal situations, financial situations. But mostly I find that it's a emotional move. And
Yeah. And what about downsizing?
Well, I was just going to
they've
say.
had stuff in that house for 50 years,
Yes,
right?
I was just going to say that's
Yeah.
actually the thing that I find that paralyzes people the most, and is the easiest one to address.
Because you have all the resources to be able to manage that very easily.
So easily, more
Yeah.
easily than people
You
understand.
take all the stress off the family and all of
Yeah,
that. So
really.
talk about the resources that you use.
So, well, as it comes to moving, I generally tell people just identify the things that you want to take with you. The rest, don't even worry about. There are companies out there, and there's so many. I happen to work with junk luggers because I've had great experiences with them. But what they do is they will take everything else, and I mean everything down to the
Sure.
last paper clip. And they will. What I love so much about them is they will recycle what they can. They will donate what they
Nice.
can.
And seniors really love that because they're from that generation where we don't throw
Yes,
away everything.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
And I think that once people don't have to worry about what they're going to do with all their stuff,
Right.
man, it just really opens up so much bandwidth.
Absolutely.
It really does. If you don't have to worry about that, you can really begin
Lifts
to think
the
about
load.
what's the next
Right,
adventure.
Right. And look forward to what you're going to take with you and how it fits in. You mentioned this is their, hopefully, their last move. People don't want to move again when they're 85.
Right.
Right?
I don't want to move.
Exactly. So getting them out of their house into perhaps the next destination would be assisted living, somewhere where they're going to get care. So it really is inevitably, hopefully, their last destination. If we, on our side, have done our job and we're looking at all of their care needs, predicting their mobility and all of that into the next destination of life based on geographics, financial, social, and medical needs.
Yeah.
It usually is their last move
and I find that people are happy with that. I remember a really good friend of mine said that her mother came to the point where she said, I don't want to change my own light bulbs anymore.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
And when you move to senior housing, of course, they do your daily housekeeping. They change your sheets weekly. So that's wonderful. I love that you talk about the stress reduction, and I know how compassionate you are with your communication. So I know seniors need that, and they need you to support them at the journey they're at.
Right.
And I know you're not going to come in and just tell them what they're going to keep. They're
Right.
going to tell you what they're going to keep. And I love that. So you're supporting them, you're supporting the adult children, taking that burden off of the adult children. I've had seniors come to me and say, I'm a retired physician, and my kids came in and they said, Dad, you've read all these books. You don't need these books anymore. Yeah, and he said, these are who I am. And I've kept them for 40 years because they mean something to me.
Yeah.
So I love that you are working at their speed, but I also know that people do not pre-plan very well in Washington and other states. And so sometimes they're in crisis. They might be at the hospital. Mom, broke her hip. She's taking care of dad who has dementia at home. And it's a call to LisaMari to say, you know what, we need resources in the next couple months to pay for our care. Can you tell us a little bit about an urgent move? And we know that we want to get the financial security out of the sale of the home, but we also know that sometimes it's need driven and they need to move quickly to get that asset to pay for their next destination.
Right. I think what you're referencing is something I see often, which is a lot of folks are equity rich.
Yes.
Equity rich, cash poor,
Cash poor.
which really means
Absolutely.
that there's not a big, huge bank account balance,
Right.
but there's a lot of
Equity
money
in the
tied
home.
up right in the
Yeah,
home.
absolutely.
Compass actually has a program. It's also called Concierge.
I love that.
Compass
Concierge. Yes.
where it allows homeowners to access some of their equity in order to prepare for the move. You could use it to prepare to work on the house, to do repairs there. You could use it in relation to moves that you have coming up. There's a lot of flexibility.
Yes.
But what it does is it gives people a tool so that they can access the equity that they have in their house, and it's much more. There's a small fee associated with it, but not comparable to a home equity line of credit.
Right.
I've actually had clients use it. Actually, for a house that was a hoarder's house, both inside and out, and they were so overwhelmed, and they were able to access some of the equity and got that cleaned up, and that reflected in how, number one, how quickly the property sold, and also
Yeah.
the price point that
The
it sold
price
for,
point,
right?
absolutely.
Because if you pull up to something and you see something that needs an enormous amount of work and is not cleaned up and all that, people will just discount that in their mind.
Absolutely. They
Right.
can't see past that. That's
So-
wonderful. And I know we've used concierge service through Compass to get people placed in assisted livings. As you said, they don't have $25,000 in the bank and it's a couple and they're moving and it might be $10,000 for two people. And we need enough for 3 months to give you guys time to sell and get it staged. And we know homes sell much quicker when people aren't living in them.
Yeah, it's really true, and also it's not easy to live in your house while it's on the market. It's not.
You got to
It's
keep
re-
a perfect house. I've
really-
stayed in people's homes that had it up for sale, and yeah, you felt like you couldn't even take a shower because you
Yes.
might have that phone call that someone's going to come by and look.
It's true, and it's not always possible to be out of the house before you sell it. But if you have those options, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better you're able to create a unique plan, something that fits your own needs and goals.
Perfect.
So that's what I try to have is a big toolbox for people.
Yep.
They don't necessarily access every tool that's in the
Right.
toolbox.
But if they need a resource, you have it.
Yeah, so that's what
Absolutely.
I'm trying to do is be able to provide resources so that it fits people's unique situation.
Well, that's why we love partnering with you and your local knowledge. Just like with Concierge Care Advisors, we recommend whether you're going to use our services that are totally free to find senior housing or my competitors that are local, just concentrate on local. Someone you can sit across the table and have a cup of coffee with.
It's really
You're
important.
making big decisions. And to have somebody outside of the state manage this for them, we just do not appreciate that, and we don't think that they could be local. If they're not locally supported, they're not getting all the resources that they deserve.
it's hard to know. I've actually, in fact, I had a good friend recently who lived far away from me, and she did want my help. But what I said was, you will be served better by the people that know your local community.
I love
and
that.
though I love her so much and wanted to
Right.
help, I was of best service to her by way of connecting her with someone who was really directly in her
I love
in
that.
her neighborhood.
Yeah, it's not just about a sell of a home.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And your reputation is so important. Tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been doing this.
Oh my goodness. I think I've just dated myself.
Sorry to help with that.
We'll just start by saying my mother was in real estate, so I feel like I've been in real estate for a really long time.
Since you were a child.
Yes.
You went to some of those home reviews, I would imagine.
Yeah, and my daughter went with me. I've been doing
Of
this for
course.
30 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I think I've worked in every kind of residential real estate that I can imagine. I've worked with nonprofits, with King County, with tribes, with, oh my goodness, all kinds of places. And most recently, I have found that the audience I enjoy, I am of the most service to these days is our elders. Because I have my own elders that you have helped.
Yeah.
So
your dad
beautifully and
moving across
graciously.
the count.
Yes.
Yes, country.
As well as all my friends, and I also feel like this is an audience that is largely ignored.
Yes,
actually
forgotten about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I hear these wonderful stories from people, and also our elders are funny.
They are the stories they share.
Sassy and
Yes.
funny, and they are fun to work with, and they need advocates. They need people that will actually listen quietly, hear what they're saying, work with the family. There's all kinds of dynamics going on that
Sure.
that are difficult.
Some
for
people don't want to sell the
families.
house. Some
Yeah.
people need the equity to move on to their next destination, but their adult children want them to, perhaps pass that asset on to them, and sometimes don't have the best interest of their parents as well. So you can be an advocate that way as well.
Yeah, and actually, I have seen
Sure.
some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But also, I see oftentimes relief in children that have elders, just because it's not the
Telling
child-parent
them.
dynamic, right?
Yes,
It's a different
it's
person.
a professional.
And so it just eases things up, I think, for perhaps both sides. Not always, but enough of the time that I find it very gratifying, and it makes me feel good to be of service in that way.
Perfect. And we owe it to our seniors to be there for them. So
Yes.
we're so blessed to be able to be part of their journey. What advice and tips would you give on to seniors about selling their house? Maybe 3 things that they should know about selling their home. Maybe choosing a realtor. Maybe you have questions to ask other than are you local, but maybe your experience. Maybe if someone's selling 2 homes a year, they might not have the experience that you have.
Well, I think the first thing that really consumers should know that this is a conversation. Almost everything, in my experience in real estate, is a negotiable situation. I don't like the word negotiable because that implies there's hostages here. That's not really the situation. But what I want people to know is knowledge is power. And they should
Yes.
ask all of the questions they have. Your home it's likely the largest financial decision or asset most people have. And they should ask every question they have. And they should not feel silly about asking those questions. I think as a consumer, in any arena, I'm looking for someone who is not talking all the time, actually,
Right.
who's listening to me,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how they can help me get to the place I need by providing me with information.
Selling.
Yes,
Not selling.
I'm never
Yeah.
telling anybody
Right.
what they can or cannot
Good
do.
for you. Yeah, you're just listening and trying to bring those all to fruition.
Sure, I'll give them my experience, my own knowledge. I'll ask a bunch of questions, and I will encourage them to ask questions.
Perfect.
Then it will help you get to your goal, your destination faster, and you will feel better about it.
Exactly. Well, LisaMari, that brings me to what we do on an ongoing basis together is getting your ducks in a row
Mm.
and talking to people and educating people about what we do. So I know you and other people within our organization have done Get Your Ducks in a Row, and we might speak about the housing and the in-home care. Then you come in and talk about senior real estate, and we also have usually an elder law attorney that also talks about the financial piece and all of the paperwork to have in order as well. So I love that we educate people, that we're not coming in usually at crisis, but giving people resources of all of the things they need to get in line for their journey of selling the home, preparing with the elder law, and then looking at options with our company that supports all of the assisted living and retirement communities. And we are a free service. We know that when we refer someone to you, that they can get a free consult as well.
Sure.
So we love partnering and educating people. I think that is 80% of what we do is educating people
I would
so
agree.
they can make good decisions.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think also you said something that really sticks with me, and that is to do things in advance, to prepare in advance.
Yes.
It's been my experience and many others that I've seen is when you prepare in advance, then when
better
life
outcomes.
happens, yes, when
Yes.
life happens and things go sideways,
Yes.
you don't have to run around doing all the stuff. It's the busy stuff that you just don't have the bandwidth, and
No.
you don't want to have the bandwidth for that. When you prepare in advance, it just makes things so much easier. And there's a lot of
Absolutely.
preparing in advance that we could talk about, but that's
Yeah.
a whole nother a whole nother episode.
I do want to mention that because that's what our company concentrates on is keeping people safe at home while they're preparing for a transition that may or may not happen down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so having a good life at home, but knowing someday you may need to move.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be overwhelming or scary because if we've prepared you in advance for a good journey, people stay at home with supportive resources to be able to be at home safely.
Mm-hmm.
But when they aren't safe anymore, that's when we recognize that we need to come in and have those heavier conversations.
I love that you have a checklist too.
Yes.
I think that provided me with a lot of comfort in regards
Good.
to my own parents because you just don't know.
You don't know what
really.
to ask.
Right. You if you don't do that all day long every day.
Right.
We're not thinking about that kind of stuff, and I found that to be very, very helpful.
Wonderful. And I wonder what kind of encouragement or wisdom you could give to a senior that has high anxiety about moving from their home and they just are overwhelmed of the unknown, I think more importantly. And what can you share on that?
Oh my goodness, that reminds me of my first story of an elder who it was just that situation. She was just this sprite little 80-something-year-old woman who lived on the third floor of a walk-up, and she had broken her ankle,
yeah.
and she was stuck up there, and we were visiting, and she was waiting for her family to come from the Midwest, and she looked right at me and said, I'm so scared. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I think in the moment, the most important thing was to just recognize that, to acknowledge that.
And tell her that's okay.
Yes.
That is okay.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
And then I said, we're going to help
Do
with
this
that.
together.
Yeah, you're not alone. And,
Yeah.
and really, it sounds so simple, but I feel like that's what we're all looking for right now is
Right.
just for someone to quietly hear us and acknowledge us and
Yeah.
and say, you're not alone.
Yep.
You're not alone. We're
And
gonna
I am going to
help.
support your wants as much as I possibly can.
Mhm.
And anything that, is outside, you have resources for those, as well.
Yes.
Counseling. If somebody needs a counselor to come in and do a home visit with the family to get them all on the same page.
Yeah.
We have those senior counselors that can come in and do that and navigate that.
I think there's so many resources that are out there that people just don't know about, that
Absolutely.
I didn't know about,
Yeah.
that you guys for sure know about,
Yeah.
and more I know about, and I honestly think if people just raise their hand and start asking questions and just ask, you don't have to know how to get there. You
Right.
just have
You
to
have to
start
set
asking questions.
Absolutely. I'm going to just do a little plug about that. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about Get Your Ducks in a Row. And that is a seminar that you may find on Concierge Care Advisors website at www.conciergecareadvisors.com. And you also can call 855-444-7364 and ask if there is one scheduled in your local area. This is for seniors to come and learn about senior options, in-home care, realtors, elder law attorneys. We have all kinds of resources, and we have those resources on our website as well. Our services are totally free. We are reimbursed by the senior housing communities, and we support all of the senior housing communities in the state of Washington and outside of the state of Washington. So, LisaMari, I want to also ask you about pitfalls. I know in our industry, there's always a friend of a friend that knows more than any specialist out there. And as I tell physicians, sir, I'm not going to diagnose your patients. Please don't give them housing recommendations. So, with all due respect and to be realistic, I think there's a lot of family members that want to use a family friend to find them housing or to sell their home. And I find that they're not finding the best qualified people because they're using friends. And sometimes you don't want to share everything with your friends.
True.
So can you speak about that? And I think also seniors are so private about their finances and about maybe their struggles. Maybe they don't want to tell a family friend that their husband has dementia when their children don't even know because they've been covering for them. So talk a little bit about why it's good to bring in an expert that's not connected to a family member.
Well, it's interesting. I think we touched a little bit on this before that there's established dynamics in families and perhaps family friends. And I will preface this with saying I help lots and lots of friends and family.
Sure.
I think what's the most important thing is that whoever you're working with is listening. Their agenda is actually your agenda. It's how can LisaMari's job is to listen, identify, and confirm what your needs are.
Right. So they can hear it back.
Yes. Because I have to make sure I understand what I'm helping with.
Absolutely.
Right? And then be able to have enough experience in the industry and be able to prepare for pitfalls. For example, power of attorney.
Yes.
Do you have both medical and financial power of attorney? Is it actually at escrow when you're ready to sell your house?
Right.
Has it been prepared properly? Who is the title in the name of as to who owns the property? These are things that, as a consumer, you don't think about. Why would you? You don't sell real estate all day long every day, right?
Absolutely.
But somebody who's been in the business at least long enough to know what to think about in advance, so that you are you're heading off problems before they become a problem. And
you're prepared. Absolutely.
Yes.
I love that you bring up the financial paperwork when we're speaking about real estate because it's so important about moving and having that power of attorney in place. Just really want to talk to the audience right now because we see so many people that do not have their power of attorney in place for medical, and family members cannot always make good decisions for you if you don't have a power of attorney in place. It does not need to be notarized. It needs to be witnessed by two people. The financial power of attorney does need to be notarized, as we all know. But I just want to make a plug for that Pulse form as well, that do not resuscitate or resuscitate. It's a bright green form, and you should definitely ask your physician to have that. I was at the state of Olympia yesterday in front of the law enforcement officers and firefighters, educating and doing a Get Your Ducks in a Row. And that was one of the things that EMTs and a lot of the people brought up is people not having their power of attorneys and how stifling it can be in the hospital. Sometimes it's 3 to 4 months if someone is not decisional to wait there for paperwork.
Boy, and I'll tell you, when people are in the hospital and family members wanting to be there, the last thing you want to be thinking about are
It's
legal
paperwork.
documents. Yeah,
Exactly.
and they're legal documents. They're like important. They have to be done properly, and I just cannot support you enough in encouraging people to
get
get
those
that
done.
stuff done ahead of time. It's such a relief. And the family, when my father was ill and in the hospital, and we had to make decisions, and even afterwards, it's such a relief to family members to have all that done
And taken care of.
that we don't have to make those decisions for our
Absolutely.
elders.
And at that time in their journey, sometimes you just need to be family members.
Yes, that's what
right?
you want to be.
That's what you want to be.
Right.
I'm going to have to pivot just a minute because there's an important story to share, and that being a family member is really important. I had a friend call me 48 hours ago. And I hope I don't get emotional on this, but you definitely need to be family members at times of people's journeys. And so she called me and told me her husband's cancer was back. He was in remission for 6 months. And when she called, I said, "You need to be the wife again. I think your husband only has a couple more weeks." And she screamed into the phone and said, "Don't say that. No one's ever told me that yet." But I could tell by how much he was consuming. And he was on hospice, and I got in-home care in there that day. And he passed within 24 hours.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, she called me at 9 o'clock last night to tell me how wonderful the journey was to be the wife for 24 hours. So it's so important to give the people the time to be that family member and have all of those paperworks in place, the power of attorney, the Pulse form, the financial power of attorney. And she was so grateful to grieve. She hadn't left the house in 5 days in fear of him passing. And he did not want to pass with her there. So she left for 45 minutes and walked in, and the caregiver was taking his pulse, and he had passed peacefully. And she fell to the ground, and that caregiver embraced her, and she said it was so wonderful to not have family there, to have someone not connected to her husband, and to scream and yell and be mad. And it was okay for her to do so because she was in the presence of a caregiver that has been through this before.
You're going to make me cry.
45 minutes later, she said, "Should I take the dog back to say goodbye?" And the caregiver walked her back. So having these things in place are so important for people to be family members again, even if it is for that one day, right?
God, thank you so much for sharing that story. That was a powerful story. And thank you for just using your own experience to take that was a brave thing for you to do, to just speak authentically and in it. That's an intimate moment and very, very vulnerable. And
and sometimes I'm not a doctor, with all disclosure. I've had a doctor sitting right across from me at the same studio, and I've asked him, why are professionals not having these conversations? Why are people like me telling people that they're close to the end of their journey? And the answer that he shared with me is, if a physician has a 20-minute visit due to Medicare restrictions, and they go in and meet somebody and they have questions, for 15 minutes, the doctor is not going to share in 5 minutes that you're at the end of your journey. So they don't have that conversation. So it isn't that they aren't empathetic to have that conversation. They don't want to do it where they are rushed. That's such an important conversation. They want to be bedside. They want to have that 20-minute conversation. But I think as people are in our industry and hospice companies, which I'll have here soon, because I think it's so important for them to have those conversations. And when people sign up for hospice, they are so overwhelmed. And I'm sure they're telling them, here is a little blue book that shares with you people's end of their journeys. And you're so overwhelmed that you're not reading a book going, okay, if my husband's not eating for 4 or 5 days and he's not taking liquids other than maybe a syringe, that those are signs to someone's end of their journey.
can I add something to
I
that?
would love you to
My
do
father
so.
just passed recently, and
Again, I'm so sorry for that. I'm so glad that he was able to be here in Washington with you guys.
yes, and I was grateful for your assistance and for
course.
hospice. And one of the most, but I cannot say enough for hospice. The things those
Oh my
folks
gosh,
do.
those agencies just have hearts of
Oh
gold.
my goodness.
They're absolutely, yeah, God's angels on earth.
What they told me though, what this gentleman told me, and it was important to hear. It was so important to hear. He said, "I want you to know, LisaMari, people pass when they're ready to pass.
Yes.
You might be there, you might not be there. It's not about you."
I love
And
that.
please don't reflect, don't
Yeah.
take that it's, if he passes when you're not there.
There's a reason.
Yes.
Just like my friend. She said, I don't think he could have done that with me there. He didn't want me to
Yes.
to have that heartache.
Yeah. It's
I
so
love
important for
that
people to hear that.
she saw that and that she recognized that. She hadn't left the house in 5 days, so I thought, oh no, she's going to blame herself for leaving.
Right.
Right?
And that's what his point was, is please don't blame yourself.
No.
People, they get...
They know.
And the other, this is a little bit personal, but the other thing that I learned off of, or going through, helping
yeah.
my father pass, was that people, to some degree, choose the way they want to pass.
Yeah.
Maybe not in every degree, but people might make decisions that you as a family member are like, I don't know why they're doing that. That makes no
Yes.
sense whatsoever.
Yes.
I had to come to an understanding that it wasn't about me,
I
and
love
I
that.
didn't need to understand. It was
Yes,
his
it's
journey,
his- yeah.
and he got to do it the way he wanted
Yeah.
to. And
You just enter their journey.
yeah,
And we all grieve differently, right?
Yes,
And we all pass differently. And maybe my friend's husband was waiting for her to leave, right? So she didn't have to go through that last one moment where she could come in and know that he was at rest and
I'm
at peace.
so glad you shared that. So many people need to hear that.
Yeah.
Really,
Well, death doesn't have to be scary.
right? Or yes,
Right? I think
yes,
that's the number
it's
one thing.
Part of the deal.
Part-
We're
yeah.
not getting out of it.
Exactly. And I have a mother at home who's 88, and she is absolutely ready to, end her journey, whenever that may be. But she's been waiting for 15 years to be with my dad. She's been in the same house since she was 27. And to think
Wow.
that my son, I have sons that are older than that, to think that they would be in the same home when they're 88. Right? To think that she's been there since she was so young. So it's been a fun journey, but we all don't have to be afraid of that journey. To talk about it, I think, is the number one thing. Just like we're talking about, we came and talked about real estate, and we ended up with,
Hospice.
hospice and the end of the journey. But we have so many resources for our listeners out there. We just want to open up that door. We're educational. No question is obviously a dumb question.
Absolutely.
We are experts at this, and we're experts at housing and home visits and talking to people about their options. But people are going through this one time only. And they'll never be an expert, right? Thank God. It's just like consumers calling us and say, when they're calling us, we are their lifeline. I'll say, gosh, it's great to hear from you. I know you have 3 more parents. I hope I don't hear from you soon, right?
Right.
But we are absolutely here to help with all of people's resources as they're retiring, whether it's a real estate agent, a senior advisor, to financial, whether you want to stay at home for the rest of your life and make sure that your home is adequate for you to do so, and you have all the resources to be able to age at home gracefully and safely. So I also have a couple other things that I would love to ask you about getting people involved or not involving key family members early enough. Where maybe mom and dad have been thinking about selling the house, and all of a sudden they spring it on the adult child.
Oh, I've had that happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell us about it.
And also, I am kind of working within those parameters with my own parents. Boy, those are really individual situations.
Yeah.
Again, I would say, boy, you really need a professional who can listen very well to all stakeholders, I would say.
Yes, that's wonderful.
To understand how they are stakeholders, if they are stakeholders, that sort of a thing. And
Yes.
you really have to navigate what the family needs help with,
Right.
really, and also, am I the right person to help? I actually helped a family who the elder had already moved, and there was a family member who would not move,
Yes.
who physically would not move.
Uh-huh.
And I was not actually the person to help with that. That was actually a law enforcement agency that
Got it.
had to get involved by way of the court.
We see that quite often with adult children, right?
Yeah. Or sometimes when I'm called in before they're actually ready to have a conversation with me, right? When other conversations have to happen first.
Good for you for recognizing that as well.
It took me a while to recognize. I had to come out on the other side a couple times, going, I don't think I was supposed to be there yet.
Right. I'm a little bit premature in this.
Sometimes as professionals, it is our job to say, you're not ready for us yet.
Right.
Like there's a few
we
more
run
steps.
into that. If people come to us, are too independent, they're happy at home, their family members want them to move, and we go do a home visit and say they're safe, they're getting their social stimulation, their meals are wonderful, their meds are on time. I'm sorry, we did not convince them to move. We think they're happy at home, and we'll check back with you.
That's important to know what lane is our lane.
Absolutely. Stay in your lane.
Yeah. It really is important to stay in our lanes.
Oh, yes.
And to be able to help somebody find a resource that isn't our lane, but is the lane they need and can really help them.
And specialize in that lane. Like I just talked about, I'm not going to diagnose for a doctor, as a doctor shouldn't give housing advice.
Right.
Or a realtor shouldn't give assisted living advice.
I would also say, this just came off the top of my head, as to attorneys, if you need attorney review, for anything real estate related, or also estate related, which would be separate from real estate. Yes, have an attorney that is either a real estate attorney, or an estate attorney. When we're talking about wills and trusts and powers of attorney and all that kind of thing. Again, you want professionals who are specializing in what they're doing.
Absolutely. Nicole from Salish, you've met her, the elder law attorney that specializes in seniors, and we're going to have her on our podcast in a couple weeks.
That'll be a fun
beginning
podcast.
October. Yeah, and she's so informative, which is so fun. What about avoiding the emotional aspects of seniors being attached to their stuff and moving into a smaller place?
Yeah.
And how do you have that compassionate conversation to let them know it's just stuff or things, with no disrespect to anyone out there that still collects antiques. Our generation of children are no longer interested in our antiques or antiques that we have from our parents or grandparents, unfortunately. But we know that it is realistic and that they're not interested in our parents' things. So, how do you avoid getting to the conversation to realize that the downsizing is much more than what you can bring with you?
So, I have my own experience of when I had a lot of stuff in storage and I thought I missed everything, but what I realized was I missed my art and my books more than my furniture and things like that. And I think
so you find out what's important to you.
Yeah.
I love
think
that.
If I were to come back to identify just the things you want to take with you, it's the things that you will use that have some kind of meaning to you, and really, this sounds so trite, but especially at this point in our lives, life is not about our stuff.
Can't take it with you.
It's not. It's more, at least
those
for
relationships and that time.
Yeah.
That you don't have enough of.
It's what we're surrounding ourselves with. It's who we're interacting with. It's the things that we're ingesting, thinking, talking about. When I say ingest, I mean reading and consuming things like that. And also, I would say there are people that really, really specialize working with that, in that lane of I can't let go. I can't let go. I
Right.
can't let go.
Right.
Okay, I'll let go. No, I want it back.
Yeah,
Which is
exactly.
it's like so that might be some time where I'm
Sure.
like, my job is to help you sell your home in the way that you need to do it. And before we can do that, we need to navigate this stuff here, and I can help you a little bit. But if it's more than what my mental bandwidth can do to be of service to them,
Bring in a downsizing
yeah,
specialist.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what they do all day
That's
long,
all
right?
they do. What can you take in the space you're going to go to?
And it takes a lot of pressure off of family members.
It absolutely
Honestly.
does.
Can you imagine those
Absolutely.
fights?
Yeah, no. Who can take what?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we're seeing that a little bit right now. My mom, we're trying to declutter her home and trying to get some of the grandkids to take a few things. Not so easy.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
It's so funny. Oh my gosh. We also have a question that I think comes up quite often, LisaMari, that I'm concerned about. And it is, my neighbor wants to buy my house. And I always want to make sure that the neighbor is buying at market price.
Yeah.
What are your comments and concerns about that?
Sure. Well, I would say that's great if your neighbor wants to buy your house.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's let them know that there's a couple of ways to handle this. Obviously, you want to have a conversation with the neighbor.
Right.
It would be the easiest, right?
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
do want to give the consumer the option to put their house on the market, because when you do that, you have the most exposure,
Right.
which means that perhaps you get 2 or 3 offers,
Yeah.
which then perhaps bumps up the price a little bit. If you only have one person that knows about the house, right, you don't know how much money people would pay for it. I would also say sometimes there's a situation where it's just better if the neighbor buys the house. The consumer does not want to put the house on the market. They don't need people. So
And they know their neighbors. And
right.
yeah.
And the
that's-
neighbor's willing to pay
Right.
market
Market
value,
price.
and we can
That's what
figure
we've
out,
found.
a range of what the market has supported up till now, and that kind of a thing. So again, I would say my job is to listen to my client,
Yep.
hear what is really important to them, and then help them figure out the pathway to get where they need to go, so that they are realizing really what they need. It's not always about price.
Right.
It's not always about price.
Right.
I've had clients who didn't always take the highest price. There was some other part of the transaction that worked better for them. So again, I would say it's all about really listening carefully and asking questions and providing information and knowledge so people can make the best decisions for themselves. It's not my job to tell you what the best decision is, right?
Exactly.
It's not.
You're listening to what their wants are.
Mhm.
And I think we hear that a lot. I think a lot of it comes from adult children on price. And I think we need to go back to my mom, who's been in her home since 1962, who bought it for $15,000. It's appraised at $1.3 million today.
God bless her.
So is price really it, right? So I think sometimes we need to go back to what was the value when they bought it, and I think they're getting a fair
right,
deal, right?
And really, here's the thing about pricing is nobody can read the future, right?
Right.
What we do is we look at what's recently happened in your direct area,
Right.
what we think the market will support, and then when you put your house on the market, you're picking a starting point, and the market immediately gives us feedback.
Right.
It gives us feedback by way of if LisaMari is getting phone calls and showings immediately, that's telling us that we are right there in the price spot, right? If I'm not getting any phone calls, that means
You've tested the market.
buyers already know it's not within their range. And here's the thing about buyers. Anybody who's buying a house right now or he's wanting to buy a house, they know what's on the market.
Right. They've
seen
done their homework.
Everything.
It's so
They're
easy
waiting.
to access all that information today, right?
And they wait for every Thursday when new listings come on the market. And so every
They're
new
savvy
listing,
consumers.
yes, and they're going to look at it and they're going to say, that's a good deal, or skip it. Let's wait for next week.
Exactly.
So what I would say to people about price is, it's we pick a price, we look at the range, you pick your price, we start there, we pay attention to the market feedback, and you will sell your house. Do not get stuck on a number. It won't serve you.
That's
Every
great.
month that
Great
you are stuck
advice.
on a number, you're paying a month of property taxes.
Right.
If you have a loan, you're paying a month of your loan payment, right?
Talk about property tax. We hear that a lot where people are like, as a senior, I don't know if I can afford to stay in my home due to property tax.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
Yeah. And the other thing I hear that a lot of people are not aware of is that many elders are able to get a reduction on their property taxes depending on what their annual income is. And so they should look into that. They should find out about that. There's a lot of people who've had their property taxes lowered because of that. It varies, and so don't call me.
Right,
call
right,
your
right.
tax
Okay,
assessor within
call
your county.
professional.
Yes, but that's something. And also, especially since COVID really, during that time frame, the market went berserk. I've never seen a market like that. I don't think we'll ever see it again. But what happened was a lot of people's equity just, oh my goodness, went through the roof. They have a lot. On one hand, it's very good for them because when they sell their house, they will have a lot of equity.
A lot of equity.
On the other hand,
yeah,
that increases their property taxes.
Right,
so
it's kind of a double-edged sword.
It really is, and especially in King County, really, where rates are just very high. I think probably in all counties now they're just rising and rising and rising because we have more people wanting to buy houses than we have people selling houses, and so that's a supply and demand issue, right? Which will always put pressure on prices.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that go into that.
Well, I think the most important thing that you shared today is the compassion and the communication, and talking to people about using specialists. It is naturally going to reduce the stress that they have. And I don't think we can clearly take away the angst of a senior having to move out of their home.
Sure.
And most people don't want to move out of their home. We know they have to due to circumstances, whether it's medical, maybe it's stairs, maybe they've had falls, maybe they need to access the equity in their home to care for a loved one.
Yes.
So all of your knowledge that you have shared today is so important for people, LisaMari. I want to thank you. We're not closing, but I just want to go through some topics and make sure that if there's any other stories or pitfall cautions that we should caution people about with maybe using the wrong realtor, or how do you protect your clients from scams? There's a lot of scams out there. I spoke to the law enforcement officers and firefighters over in Lake Chelan last year. I usually talk about housing. That's my specialty. They asked me just to talk about senior scams because it's so prevalent.
It is so prevalent.
Yeah.
Really, where in my industry in real estate, where we see it is at escrow, when people are transferring funds. And so, for number one, I would say it's very important to actually read every email that you get from
don't
anybody
auto sign anything.
Yes,
amen. Okay.
And I would also say pick up the phone and call people.
Okay.
And confirm and
clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think people are afraid of looking stupid or ignorant or silly if they ask a question. And I just want to say, in this arena, very specifically, ask single question.
Every question you can think of.
If you don't understand, ask it again. If somebody is not answering it in the way that you can understand it, get somebody else to answer the question. It really is important to understand this stuff. And it is okay to ask questions.
Yep. If you're feeling like someone's pushing you or not answering all your questions and they just want you to be their realtor, those are tall signs that someone's not going to be patient with you and listen to you and be knowledgeable about the pitfalls and obstacles that seniors go through. And I love that you're so passionate. I've known you for quite some time. You are one of the best listeners I know. Oh. And I think with real estate, as seniors are going through this emotional time of leaving a home they don't want to leave. As you know, we do the ducks in a row, get your ducks in a row. And the first question I ask is, does anybody want to leave their home? Last week in Marysville, I think we had 3 people, only because they were best friends and I think they want to live together.
Yes, sure.
But other than that,
they were so charming.
Yes. But other than that, no one ever raises their hands. They really want to age at home successfully. And we know that in this day and age, that's not always possible. Did you know it costs $42,000 to have a caregiver come to your home and live in your home and take care of you nowadays?
For a month or
For 1 month.
Yes, you said that at the last Ducks in a
1
Row,
month.
and I gasped.
Yes.
I
So
did not know that.
yeah, it can be really pricey. By the time we're gonna need caregivers, LisaMari, that price will probably double because we know caregivers are scarce. And by the time we get there in 20 years, I hope, amen, right? That it's that long, that caregivers will be so much in demand. That bringing care into your home will just not be feasible.
It's a true concern. There's a lot of things looking to the future with elders that I'm really, really concerned about, and it really has to be a community conversation.
Yes.
Actually, where we're all working together
Right.
as a team
Yes.
for our elders.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. It's something that I just thought of that I'll bet you hear about, and I'm actually curious how to work with because I'm working with it. Is when you, like my parents, my stepdad doesn't want to move. He's quite happy where he is. And my mama, she's like, I'd like to be a lot closer to my family. And I want to honor both of them, and I want to help both of them. But
What is his reason for wanting to stay?
Well, he really likes where he lives. And actually the house is, it's a essentially a rambler, and it's lovely, and he's
Content?
yes, yeah.
And are either of them needing care right now at all?
No,
Totally
no,
independent?
though they're in their mid 80s, and so Lon, my mother loves to work outside in the yard,
So that's important.
right? And so these are the conversations I'm having with my mom. Is
You'll still have that.
if you were to move,
Yeah.
think about the things that are really important with you, and how do we help him be comfortable, because
Come
he's got
aboard.
health issues that are advancing, and yes, exactly. How do we do you hear these stories a lot?
All the time. All the time. So I will tell you that sometimes we need to put it back on him. For instance, do it for me. Right? Do it for me. If you love me, you will do this for me.
Interesting.
And so I think sometimes just hitting them where it hurts, right? Your bride, this is your bride. Don't you want to make her happy? And then sometimes if we are talking to somebody that the one person that usually needs care is the resistant one, because they don't know that the well spouse is the one that is really doing everything. So they're the resistant one. So what we say in that situation, especially if we're moving to assisted living, they'll follow you. Right? So
you're right.
If an adult child, they'll call me and they'll say, I can't get my parents to move, and I really need them to move. And I'll say, how independent are they? And they'll say, well, they think they're independent, but I do their laundry. My sister does their cooking. My
Right.
other sister does their medication management. Right? And so if people don't know how independent they are not, and everyone is running around for them, and if you really want them to move, then you quit doing things for people. You have to, unfortunately, just like our children, right?
boundary.
Sometimes those boundaries and that tough love. To say, Mom, I have kids in school.
Right.
I come over here 4 days a week to cook for you. I can no longer do this.
Yeah.
So I can't do this. And then the other daughter has to say, you know what, I'm going on vacation. I can't manage your meds for the next 2 weeks. And the other daughter says something like the same. So people, if you pull back and really need them to move, they'll move.
I hadn't even thought about it like that.
And it's that
And
tough
the
love,
boundary
right?
thing,
The
too.
boundaries. We have people that will call and they'll say, my dad's bedbound and he weighs 325 pounds. Well, that tells me if someone's bedbound and they are continuing to gain weight, someone's bringing in the bad food,
Right.
right? So sometimes we just need to listen to what everyone is going through, meet them where they're at, and be solution oriented.
I like the solution oriented instead of just banging your head against the wall.
Exactly. And sometimes it needs to be that tough conversation with the adult children. We're from an era we want to respect our parents. We don't want to go against them. We want for them to make good decisions and for us to support them always. We're not from a generation where we go against our folks. But what I tell people is when your parents are no longer making good decisions, you need to make decisions for them, not always with them.
It's so hard. It's
is
really
hard.
hard to flip that script.
It really is. But again, to go back to my mother, who's 88, not everyone has an army of 10 children. She was blessed to have 10 children. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse.
God bless her.
But we all take a day 24/7. I just came from her house. My shift is Thursday evenings, and all of us do a 24/7. She would rather not have someone in her home 24/7, but her options, not her choices, her options are if you want to stay home, you will have someone in your home 24/7. I feel like we failed her, LisaMari. She's fallen twice in the last 2 months. One day, she was on the floor for 24 hours, and the last Saturday, 14 days ago, it was for an hour and a half. So now we are 24/7 with her. Unfortunately, we had to get to those 2 falls to be able to implement the 24/7. If I had my way from being in the industry, I would have done 24/7 a year ago. I had siblings like you that wanted to respect my mom, even though I know she was a fall risk, to give her independence. And now after the second fall, thank God it wasn't life-threatening, we're saying, Mom, if you want to move to assisted living, you can. If you want to stay in your home for the rest of your life, you will have a child here 24/7.
Boy.
Yeah. And she loves it now. Today when I left, she goes, "Oh, you're leaving. When you coming back?"
I love that.
Yeah. I thought that was so cute.
That.
So
That
she
is super
went
cute.
from not wanting us in her house 24/7 to not wanting anyone to not be there.
It speaks to I think when people spend a lot of time by themselves, they don't realize they're getting into lonely or
They're
depression.
lonely. Yes.
It just-
Isolation. You talked a little bit about COVID. We still have people that are isolated from COVID. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. And that's the joy that comes from moving to a retirement and assisted living.
Yes.
Why didn't I do this earlier?
My grandmother.
Oh my
God.
gosh.
She said exactly. She fought it for so long, and then she went and she was like, LisaMari, I don't know why I didn't do this earlier.
Exactly.
It was pretty cute.
Don't you just love that? Because we never want to pressure anyone. Ours is always based on safety. So if somebody's thriving at home, we will never come to your home and do a home safety check per your doctor or your adult children and convince you to move. But if you're not safe and you're a fall risk, we have to talk to you about your safety.
It's our job. It is our
Yes.
responsibility. I mean, that's not my lane, but as fellow human beings who
Yes.
care about
People.
Yes.
Some people are one fall away from hitting their head and spending the rest of their journey in a nursing home, and nobody wants that.
and nobody thinks they're going to fall.
No.
either. That's the thing.
Absolutely. And even my mom, who did not have her walker the 2 times she fell, she does not have memory loss.
Right.
She just didn't take her walker, right? Even when I'm a standby assist, she's like, oh, don't hold on to me. I got to learn how to do this alone. I'm like, Mom, if I don't hold on to you and you take a fall, we're going to fall over your walker. So I'm going to be a standby assist and take your elbow respectfully.
Here's the thing about people have a really hard time asking for help.
Yes.
But what I always like to tell people is that people love to help other people.
Yes.
It makes us
Makes
feel
our
good
heart
when we
warm.
help other people. So if you ask for help, you're kind of doing a favor for
For
someone else
because
they will feel better.
Able to be blessed. Absolutely. At first, all of my siblings were like, "How are we going to sustain this? We're all working. How are we going to give up a full day?" And gosh, you know what? At 6 years old, my mom has given us so much joy. If I could give, her 5 days a week, I would. She gives me such joy when I leave her house in the morning. That's the house I was raised up in, LisaMari. So my sister and I sit and have coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning in the backyard where we were raised. The joy that comes from that is just unmeasurable.
I love that.
Yeah, we were sitting out on the patio with my mom, and she looked over at me and grabbed my hand, and she said, "I just want to know, did you have good memories in this home or bad memories?" And I just looked at her and I said, "Mom, nothing but great memories." I mean, I will have to say, My mom raised 10 children. We're all 1 year apart. At
Wow.
27, she had 10 of us. And I even had a brother that played professional football. And he was no more special than any other one of us. And I remember having children and thinking to myself, if I could treat my children the way my mom has treated all 10 of us, all equally, and loved them all equally, no one felt greater over the other. If I had an NFL football player as a son, I think I probably would have put him a little bit on a pedestal. But she is just an amazing lady, and she knows now she needs help. So for all of you viewers out there, I would just reiterate what LisaMari said is there are people out there that love to be of help and ask for help before things turn to a crisis. We normally meet people at the hospital in crisis, unfortunately, or at the nursing home when you're told you cannot come back home. Having these early conversations way prior to crisis, prior to a fall, prior to the need to move, where you can bless your family and talk about all of your options, what your wants are. And back to that, the power of attorneys and the Pulse form and the financial power of attorney, having all of those in place prior to needing them. So you're not making rash decisions at the hospital bed saying, hey, mom, can you sign this power of attorney so we can make decisions on your behalf? And sharing what your wants are about your home and the equity of your home. And can you afford to keep it into the family without selling it for you, perhaps, your next destination? So, yeah,
Can
with
I
closing,
add,
I would love for you to add a comment.
I was just thinking about, preparing in advance, and you and I
Yes.
have both talked to folks that are in the hospital that cannot go back home,
Right.
and now they have to go somewhere and they have to sell their house. The problem is that when you're in that situation, you don't have a lot of choices.
Right. They're limited.
And if
Absolutely.
you take the time to navigate those waters ahead of time,
Right.
then you don't, then you're not in a situation where you
Of
just have to
crisis.
take whatever you can get. And man,
Absolutely.
it's so empowering to have some agency over what your journey is. I mean, just
Absolutely.
really, who doesn't want agency, especially
At this
as an
time.
elder? Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, like your grandma said, why didn't I do this sooner?
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at all of your resources out there. You can talk to a realtor. It doesn't mean you need to move in the next 6 months, a year. But talking to LisaMari at Compass prior to moving, or even having those conversations a couple years in advance if possible.
Oftentimes
huge.
I work with people for several years before they actually do something. That's fine. There's their journey.
There's no time,
right?
it's
Yes,
their journey.
exactly.
Amen. And the same thing with concierge care advisors. When we are called into help about senior housing, it's your journey. We're coming into your home. We're evaluating your safety, usually at the request of your family or your physician. And we will never strong arm anyone to move. If someone's not safe, there's always in-home care. And I just want to thank you for listening to the senior podcast for Concierge Care Advisors. You can reach us at www.conciergecareadvisors.com, or you're welcome to call at any time, 855-444-7364. And we are here for you 365 days a year. Thank you and have a great day.